This past weekend, you had a negative experience at Lollapalooza. Could you share with us what that unsavory experience was?
The experience I had wasn't actually at Lollapalooza. It was right down the way by Virgin Hotel, so that's like Wabash and Lake or something like that.
A few blocks away.
So I went because a friend of mine was performing at an after party, like day party thing at Virgin Hotel. And as I'm leaving on Michigan Avenue, I see the police ticketing two older black men on the street, just kind of like giving them a hard time. So I'm waiting on my Uber and simultaneously kind of trying to figure out what's going on. Eventually I get to the bottom of it that they're ticketing these two men for public drinking. And they had like, you know, some malt liquor, something cheap. And it got under my skin, you know? So I let the police know about it because I find it so hypocritical that during Lollapalooza, while everyone is publicly intoxicated, everyone is publicly on drugs, but the interior of the festival is primarily people not from the city of Chicago, people from the suburbs, or you know, people from other places around the world, that they would be, you know, ticketing the poorest people directly outside of the festival, the people with the least money to pay for anything, for the same thing that everyone else is doing, you know, with more privilege inside. So
you've always you've been outspoken in your career, specifically on issues that impact Chicago, but definitely inequalities throughout our nation and different things that's going on. One of the moments you did that with your music video, 16 Shots, which has millions of views now, and the video features the Laquan McDonald case and that footage from that car footage from him actually being killed, and you're definitely making a statement about how police are treating young black individuals. What do you, I guess, want the community to perceive from that? And then we'll talk about how it's being used in a Jason Van Dyke case.
I was inspired and influenced by the organization that I saw in the street following Laquan's murder. And, you know, being in Chicago, and it's like, that's a single degree of separation from me. Like one of my good friends, Paris, Laquan, I was his little bro, you know, from his neighborhood, and just somebody that he would look out for and be around all the time. So it just felt very close to home, and also very representative of America's racist dynamic as a whole. You know, the police are an evolved slave catcher, overseer organization. That's what they do. They repress. And so I kind of wanted to represent with my music video the ridiculousness of emptying so many shots into someone.
How do you feel about your political statement and your art right now? It's being used by Jason Van Dyke, the officer that killed Laquan McDonald, shot him 16 times. It's being used by his defense, and they're using it to try to get the trial moved outside of Cook County
by saying this
to
is
a
the
neighboring
perception.
county. So how do you, what's your reaction to that?
I'm not overly surprised. The Chicago Police Department has a long proven history of racism, and it's obvious that they want to move the case to the suburbs so they can get an all-white jury, point blank. So they'd find a way to argue that case with or without me. I do feel, however, that also, you know, history doesn't show us that police officers ever get held accountable or convicted for crimes. So it's not something that I've been particularly hopeful about. Not that we should not continue to fight for it and justice for Laquan, but, you know, I mean, Jason Van Dyke was an officer with a history, you know, 30-something complaints, many of them being like racist taunts and abuses and physical abuses. So, I mean, yeah, they want to get a racist out of Chicago, which is a city that's very multicultural, and get him into the suburbs.
And if somehow they are successful, his defense team, Van Dyke's defense team, in moving this, what would your response be? What kind of way, how would you combat this?
I'd probably go out there. I'd probably show up at court out there.
Okay.
That's great. I mean, that's really cool.
We're going to be tuned in. That trial is actually set for September 5th right now. We're being in pre-trial proceedings, so we're all going to be stay tuned staying tuned for that.
Really quick before we go to break, I want to ask you, where did you get this this presence of having a social conscience? And a lot of people in the rap game are just worried about building their brand on social media or trying to make as much money as possible. But you have a vesting interest in your community. Where did that come from?
I mean, I'm from the community, you know what I'm saying? And especially being in a city like Chicago, where we've got 74 people being shot in a weekend. I think that being somebody that knows history and understands this country and this city, that it's my duty to be socially active.
It's great stuff, Vic Mensa.